don't know what that means. Hello, Brian.
Haley, you found it, the
I
record button.
and yeah, like I can't keep up with the different updates almost every month that like really change things around.
And if you can't keep up with them at your age, imagine somebody, I'll be 76 at the end of the month, and I just sort of smile when this stuff comes up. If Ray or I can't figure it out, I let it go, and you know, I'm a Facebook fool. The Facebook is more for people my age, and Twitter for younger, but Haley, I have a couple of friends who are dealing with cancer
Mhm.
and people that I care about. And and I started wondering, and each of them has to face the issue of, do I go through radiation? Do I go through chemotherapy? What's the quality of my life going to be? And it prompts me to ask the question, so why do we keep living? What is it that helps us make the decision to let go, if we believe, especially if we believe in an afterlife, or to fight for every inch of life that we can have? Do you have thoughts?
I do have thoughts, and I think it's such an interesting question, and I think it brings up so many things. You know, what is it about life that keeps us going? I think that's a very unique question and a very unique answer based on everybody and their sort of exploration of the path. And I think that's the purpose of the path, is to find that joie de vivre that gives you the motivation to, whether you're ill or perfectly healthy, to keep getting up every morning to just go for it and to do better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I personally, for me in my life, I've had some critical health issues, which I've learned my takeaway from those was, don't wait until you're sick to figure out what that motivation is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I also say that because getting ill, critically ill in this day and age is ridiculously scary. And I think it's so scary that it has the power to shake most people to their core, even if they felt like they were very solid in their path and very solid in their beliefs, it has the power to really shake them. So I feel almost like it's none of my business to kind of say what the right answer there is. I think it has to be very unique just because medical in the Western society is so scary, so scary.
Haley, let me offer just one scenario. The person has accomplished everything they hope to in their life. They've done great work. They feel they've had a full life. Their age is not quite what they thought it would be when they died, but they've lived, into their 70s, and are facing the question, okay, uh, what is my reason for going through this process? Why, you know, why do I want to endure it? I think age has a lot to do with it. How much living you've had already, whether you have a bucket list or not. How many items, if you have been checked off. Have you experienced love? Is anyone dependent upon you? Uh, th- Throw some feedback to some of those, would you?
I think if we're talking specifically about cancer, I've had an enormous amount of experience. What I consider for my life and my age and my being is that I've had enormous experience with cancer, and cancer affecting people of many different ages, and it being terminal at many different ages. And my experience of being alongside those people at different ages, at different kinds of cancer, at different kinds of treatment, the I think a lot of the time the question, why is this happening to me, is probably the most consistent question. what is this supposedly teaching me, or what's the point of this, is the most consistent question. Age, I think, always comes up because we like to try and figure out why it's happening. And so age is an easy thing to grasp at. For me, I don't think age has anything to do with it. You know, I think the questions that you have at 70 are the same questions you would have when you're 18. Have I done enough? Have I spent enough time? Those questions are the same whether, like I said, you're 17 or 70.
I can identify with what you just said, because I've been reading a lot of posts on the internet about the joys of being a senior, the joys of being able to finally look at life more clearly. So if a person begins that process of joyful observation and experience, and then gets diagnosed with something that's going to cut short what maybe they've spent their whole life working towards, that can feel like a great sacrifice, and would impact, I would think, their decision making on whether they want to endure chemotherapy or radiation, or hormone therapy is another one that I've heard about, which is not supposed to be easy either. I get feedback from people who, after some of my posts, that I'm talking too much about death at my age, and my age is 76. I'm past, I think, the age expectancy for a man. A lot of people just resist talking about age. And Hayley, what I did in this latest column that I'm getting quick thank yous for is that I'm talking about how we seniors don't really share much about erectile dysfunction or irritable bowel syndrome. We don't talk about being in diapers occasionally. We can talk about knee replacements. We can talk about what meds we're on, but we don't give permission to each other often to talk about the things that we thought would be great indignities, but are now part of our life.
I would offer my perspective on that. I don't think
Okay.
it's about age. I think people are so afraid of death, and they are so afraid of talking about death, and we automatically kind of put age and death together. So whether a person dies at 17, the question is always, oh my God, they were so young and they were, had such a life ahead of them. If a person dies at 70, oh my God, they hope they had a good life. We always connotate age with death and how we react to death. I see it more as a fear of death, and a fear of talking about death, and a fear of acceptance of death being part of life. I think, on the other hand, too, the subjects that you're talking about, those very personal dignity topics, I don't think we speak about them at any age. I don't think pregnant women have the room and the space to talk about how their bodies change when they're pregnant, and sort of the indignities that occur. I don't think, women talk about the indignity of their period and having to go to work and being so afraid of bleeding through into their pants and everybody at work seeing it. So again, for me, it's not necessarily about age. It's about these very human things that happen to us, but are so taboo.
Like postpartum depression. Somebody well-known recently talked about her postpartum depression and got a multitude of thanks from people who said, I've been afraid to talk about it, but I experienced the same thing. Men would have a great deal of difficulty identifying with what it was about unless they were really able to be empathetic. But other women who have gone through it understand, this issue, but it doesn't get talked about.
It still doesn't get talked about. We don't talk about these things that we consider sort of undignifying. And I think if we're still afraid to talk about pooping, we've got a long way to go before we start talking about sort of erectile dysfunction and people in diapers.
Yeah.
You know, it's still considered taboo to talk about pooping once you're out of diapers as a baby. Like once you're potty trained, we don't talk about poop anymore.
Well, it depends on if you have friends who love that kind of humor.
So I think it's, you know, I think when we come back to life, we're so used to life being looked at a very structured, specific lens. And I think as we give ourselves the permission to widen that perspective and perhaps change the lens and put maybe rose-colored lens and see what life looks like, change it to a yellow-colored lens, see what life looks like. I think then we can experience life in a different way where we kind of sit back and be like, hang on a minute, this happens to everybody. Why aren't we talking about it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that because of age? My perspective is it's not because of age, it's because of the soul.
Well, age, I'm sorry, Frederica, age is an element that impacts the yellow lens versus the red lens, but there are so many other factors. In fact, when you and I started chatting about what we were going to talk about today, you talked about the incredible importance of the day, significance of the day in terms of the UN being asked to condemn Israel for genocide. Am I right in terms of
the International Court of Justice?
Yeah. Okay. And boy, that is an issue that those of us who are not Jewish or Palestinian or Arab tiptoe often around because we don't want to hurt feelings or cause pain to anybody by, quote, taking sides. And as you said a minute ago, the Tao Te Ching says there are no sides.
There are no sides.
There's no difference between right or wrong, between life or death. And the worst thing one can have, according to the Tao, is an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You fail if you have an enemy. Boy, that's a tough one, because all of us have experienced people in our life who fill every characteristic of enemy in terms of our criteria. Mm-hmm. But and I'm going to shut up, but I just want to say that one really has to put themselves in the shoes of the person on both sides and listen and try to feel what they're feeling in order to come out of it with any understanding.
My greatest challenge is trying to live within the Tao Te Ching. Also, Ram Dass talks about all of the theological, esoteric, occult teachings talk about just stay in the middle, don't take a side. And I feel like that has been my biggest challenge, staying in the middle, not taking a side. Mm-hmm. And sort of with this happening today and tomorrow, it's sort of being very disciplined on my side to be like, stay out of it. Don't take a side. Just mm-hmm. let things roll and focus on faith instead and what I'm doing as a person. And I think it is incredibly difficult because we all have hope and we all want to live a good life and we all want to be able to say that we had a good life. So when these things sort of come up in our world, these little bubbles of interesting journeys, they always, it's not necessarily death that we're facing. I'm not facing death, I don't think so today, but this is something that I consider very much aligned with that question of how are we living and what's the point of it?
It's challenging it is, Ray and I, as you know, read it daily, and then we and also the Wu Wei, which is a complimentary book, but it says the same thing. It's just, don't fiddle, don't move in on, try to control, try to change something else in nature or in another person. leave it alone and it will evolve to what it's supposed to be. That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. And one of the things I'm very grateful about Mexico is that's one of the greatest lessons of being in Mexico, because the life and the culture here is, if it's none of your business, if it's out of your control, leave it alone. Why are you stressing about it? Why are you worrying about it? And it's really tough to be in both worlds and to try and be like, okay, I'm trying to keep myself balanced, which is in the middle, not taking sides, but also I'm trying to be what I consider proactive and well-informed, which is pick a side.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of that too is me being able to ask questions to the universe, to myself. What does this mean to you? Can you ask these questions while being in the middle? And I think it's, I can only imagine and I hope that if it's difficult for me, it's just as difficult for everybody else. Because we need to talk about these things. We need to question these things within ourselves.
Yes.
Just as much as we need to chill out in terms of adults wearing diapers, because it happens to everybody.
Right. To be able to talk about it without being embarrassed about it.
Being embarrassed or judgmental about it.
Right.
Having that look like,
yeah, why did you bring that up? Or boy,
yeah, nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, you're not as interesting as you were before. I think one of the things we do in these conversations and the conversations that we have with our peers is that we give permission to ask questions. And a lot of people, are afraid that if they ask questions, they're going to seem disloyal to the issue, with which they and their community are facing. And the one constant in our life is loving kindness. Even if we don't understand both sides, that does not stop us from showing loving kindness to people on both sides, right? Because, when you look through history and all the issues, all the characters, all the people you would think had the power to destroy the world didn't and couldn't, you sort of, you back off a little bit in terms of how important this particular issue is and whether it's going to get settled in your lifetime.
I think it's, I 100% agree with you. And I think it's, in my mind, I do the same thing that what you're saying, where I try to be like bigger picture kind of thinking. And then I kind of come back to myself and I'm like, okay, so if we can look at the bigger picture and be more open-minded about the bigger picture, why is it such a thorn in my side now? And I think that's where it's being able to take the bigger picture and apply it to today. Yes, we're all going to be okay. Yes, the world's going to be okay, because ultimately there are far more humans practicing love and kindness than humans not practicing. So we're okay baseline. But I think for me, what I see with the importance of today and tomorrow in terms of the case South Africa has brought against Israel is that it will be a raise in that standard of okay. It's not going to solve it. It's not going to say that we're not going to have any wars or that nobody's going to die in wars again. It's just going to raise the standard on what is permissible in the wars.
I think the reason we struggle, you say, you get the bird's eye view and then you struggle with, it's because we're human.
True.
We are dualistic. We are both human and divine. And the divine in us, the whispering of the divine, reminds us, big picture, stay centered, don't rattle cages, loving kindness. And the physical is saying, wait a second, I got to make a decision. Do I fight or
you not have a side?
Right. And if I don't have a side, other people
wrong.
Right. Is the person talking to me right now right or wrong? And I had a conversation with a friend a couple days ago, a good friend, and we had an exchange of emails that weren't as warm and loving as I would have expected about an issue. And so I said, let's talk on the phone. And we talked on the phone, and I experienced an immediate defensiveness. And I said, this is not when you went, all I want you to do is listen to my feelings and then respond. But I want you to at least know what my feelings are rather than debating what the issue is. And that changed the whole conversation. Suddenly there was calm, there was no defensiveness. It was listening. And that's what I believe, we're called to do, as hard as it is to listen. Just tell me what you're feeling. Tell me why you're so angry with me, and I promise I won't come up with an answer while you're talking.
I don't know if you found this, but you raised a really good point earlier about questions. Just ask me a question. I feel we don't know how to ask the question. We can feel it, but we don't actually know how to put the words together into a question. And I find this often with people when we're in that sort of, just ask me a question, ask me how I feel, ask me in your way what is bothering you, just put it in a question. Very often I receive, well, I don't have any questions. And I think because there's that click over the circuit breaker, and now it's not about how they're feeling, it's about, shit, how do I ask a question? What is a question?
Hayley, do you have any questions for me?
Shit, no.
Things, we've been talking for, over a year, and, I'm real personal, and I ask you personal stuff, but do you have anything that you think, gee, I wish I had asked him about that?
Off the top of my head, no. Oh, I do have a question.
Okay.
Was dating Sebastian a good idea?
It was so just for anyone who's joining the conversation, I'll be 76, Ray's going to be 73. We lost our beloved Labradoodle in February, and right now it's January. It was almost a year ago. And so we got a very powerful Aussie Doodle, thought to be the Einstein of dogs. Was it a good idea? And I would say it depends on the person you're talking to. For us, it was excellent. For us, it was a really good idea because it focuses attention. The thing I most love about it, Hayley, is watching the impact of love on the dog. Our dog is always happy. He's always happy. And I don't know if he would have been if he had gone to a different set of owners, but he's just always happy. And he knows each of us in terms of what our personalities are. Don't go to Ray to throw the ball, but don't go to Brian to take you out as often. And he's torn up, favorite things. And initially the reaction is, all right, we knew we were going to do this. And the next reaction is, damn it, now I'm going to have to find a pattern that's going to go with that chair. And then the next reaction is, even if the chair never gets fixed, how important is it? You're not showcasing your house anymore. You've downsized. It's not, the grand place. It's a place that you love living in. So going back to your question. Yeah, I'm really glad that we got him. And he manipulates the hell out of us. Oh my God, Hayley. He's supposed to sleep in a crate, right? So we give him a biscuit, give him the crate, put the sheet down over the cover, put on sound waves, in the background, so he'll sleep like us. Wow,
he's a pampered pooch.
Oh, pampered as hell. And then usually, it would started at 5 in the morning, he'd bark to go out, and then he wouldn't be forced back in the cage. Then it was 3, then it was 2. Now he doesn't have to go in the cage. He's got it so that we just tie him up to the sofa, and let him sleep on the sofa or but he doesn't have, roam of the house. And our goal is eventually to get him on the bed, because Lincoln used to sleep with us, and he has no trouble. Sebastian has no trouble leaping on the bed at all. He can, and it's high. It's so high, Ray, and I almost need steps to get in. Seriously. So, depending upon the people you're asking, I think it's a wonderful thing to have in your life, is another entity that you can give love to and receive love from. Because we get a lot of love, from the dog too.
Yeah.
He keeps us on our toes, though. He's not totally housebroken. And so, we're constantly sniffing. You smell anything? I think I smell something. No, it always smells like that now. Oh, all right. So does that fully answer your
That fully
inquiry?
answers my question, and I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, thanks. The other thing I think about is that if for some reason I would die before Ray, he would have Sebastian, as a companion and a continuation of our family. If Sebastian lives to what his life expectancy would be, which is 14, I'd be 90. So I fully expect that he'll be around. I'm, fingers crossed. So I can ask you a question?
Please go ahead.
Okay, so this is more personal, and it's because I'm cheering on your side. I'm in your corner. How hard is it to deal for you personally with the lack of support you have from your parents and your siblings?
It's easier than anybody would think.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very difficult in the beginning, but I'm at the point now where my life is 100 times easier without that than having it in my life. And I think it's very important to understand that just because that kind of support is not in my life doesn't mean that I have zero support.
Right.
It's loving kindness is really the highlight of my support now. People support me because they love me and they're being kind, not because we share blood.
Your family of choice. It's the people that you've assembled.
For me, and I think this is, very unique and personal to everybody. For me, going through that process and questioning, what am I supposed to do here? Right? What's the right thing to do here? It's unheard of to break from your family. You're supposed to always take care of your family. So there was a lot of questioning about, what am I supposed to do here? Why is this happening to me? Maybe I'm awful. Maybe I need to look at my entire life. But having gone through that and just going very slowly and sort of taking baby steps to arrive at the place I am today, to very confidently and very happily say, my life is better without it. Because what has come in is beyond beautiful. It's literally like this garden of beautiful flowers and bees and unicorns and butterflies.
Right.
People that are in my life and the experiences that I have now because of what I went through is just beautiful. And it's so authentic and so straight to the heart. It's very heartfelt. That's not to say by any means discounting my family or anything like that. It's just being able to say that we go through really hard times. We question them and we think that life will never be the same because it's going to be worse. Very often life is better.
Yeah, when we let go of something, and it's really hard to let go of things that we cherish. I personally, when I let go of something that I cherish, I do go through some depression about it, because I don't want to let go. I want it in my life. But what I found is that it then opens up my life to meeting other people, right? If you lose best friends, and you just don't understand why, what we heard from friends is, we could never get together with you because you were always with them. You were, you guys were inseparable. We couldn't, break into it. And they were kind of happy, in terms of it. But it opened up not just the opportunity to make more friends, it opened up the opportunity for me and Ray to focus more on each other. And that's a gift.
Yeah.
For me, that's a really big gift.
And, to be completely honest and transparent with you, it is still a little bit difficult having to be the person that has separated from my family, not necessarily from my family, but just from other people and their judgment. It's always being so, especially over the holidays. Oh, you didn't go home. Why? There's always that judgment once a year, every year, always the judgment. When I'm meeting people, or for instance, I'm now dating a guy and he wants to see photos of me as a kid. And I'm like, I have none. I have 0 photos of me as a kid because all of those photos are with my family. And so it's almost like, ooh, how messed up are you?
Yeah.
It's
But
that
also
kind of judgment that comes from other people that are so used to the idea that family is higher than anything else.
But often they got that concept from a Lifetime movie on television,
I
at
think we're
Christmas.
all brought up with that concept.
Right.
I think it's exactly the same as how we don't talk about these personal things that we consider undignified. It's family's right there with all of those topics. It's considered to be completely undignified to separate from your family. No matter what, you stick with your family.
And the challenge, I'm flipping the coin, the challenge of talking positively about your family experience is putting others in a position in which they need to acknowledge that their father was abusive, or their mother was crazy, or they didn't have enough money to pay for lunch at school, or all the things, because one of my faults is that I think everyone has the same life I do. I just assume, you have grandparents and you have parents, and that your mother loved you, and right, you got a good education. I know intellectually it's not true, but it's my first assumption. So if I talk casually about, how at Thanksgiving time, we great aunts and uncles would be around the table, and it for some people can pinch, because but I want to know about that. I want them to tell me about it.
I agree with you, and I think that's where I ask people to ask me questions. If you're uncomfortable with your experience, just like you're saying, you had this wonderful experience, but because you know where I am in my life now, you don't want to talk about it. Ask me questions and ask me if I'm uncomfortable with you talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm at a place now where I'm completely comfortable. I will celebrate your experience with you and say that is fantastic, because that's perfection. And I think you get to celebrate that and you're talking about it just as much as I get to celebrate saying my life is great.
Yes.
But again, it starts with the question, ask me the question, how are you doing with this? Is it a safe space to talk about this? And, for me, it's absolutely safe. I understand that for other people, it may not be safe.
Let's come all the way around and pose the question to the Jew or the Palestinian. What do you live for? Remember how we started this conversation with why keep living? What is it that makes your life worthwhile? those two groups of people have to answer the same question. And there's not going to be one answer, of every person in Israel having the same answer, right? Or everybody in Gaza having the same answer. But boy, thinking about yourself as a mediator, Hayley, let's say they called us in as two people that they heard, are pretty good at this. How do you mediate that? How do you?
I think you have to ask the question yourself, to yourself, because I think within each of us is an Israeli, is a Palestinian. And I think you have to ask that question, Brian, to the Israeli in you, what does it mean? To the Palestinian in you, what does it mean? And I think once you're able to reconcile that you are both of these people, you are both of these perspectives, then you can possibly mediate.
And how would you do that? I mean, my mind would be to have people, again, and this is maybe very simplistic, people listen while the other talks, and then you ask them, will you say back to us what you think you heard them say? Is that what you said? And now tell us what you're feeling, and go through the same process at the end.
I would start with the same question I asked you to each and every single person at that table. Write down or tell me, what, as a Palestinian, what do you want? As Israeli, what do you want? So if there's a table of 20 people that I'm mediating, I'm getting 20 answers reflecting both sides.
And are you telling me, just because, are you saying in that room of 20, there are 20 Palestinians and 20 Israelis, or 20 people?
20
Ireland?
People that are there to solve the issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I would start with asking the question individually. Sit with the question. To the Israeli in you, what do you want? To the Palestinian in you, what do you want? So each person would have to answer that question, two-pronged question, and then we could start mediating. Because I don't think anybody is ready to mediate or anybody is ready to talk if they can't see that the other person is in them.
And that makes it easier to listen.
I think that's the baseline for empathy. It's the baseline for compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And, my take on all of this is that those are two things that are very much missing in these conversations.
Do you do that yourself or with your clients? Have them write down what it is they want as whatever noun you put in?
I do it with myself. So when I have these sort of conflicts of wanting to flip to one side, I always kind of bring myself back, being like, you're all of this. You can't look at it as if you're just one of them. For my clients, for some, I'm able to have that question with them. For others, they're not ready for that question. It's a big question. It's a hard question for other people to realize that they are the other person.
Okay, so still going back to the beginning, if I can, leaving the Israeli and Palestinian discussion, what are your reasons for wanting to continue life?
Oh, the pure joy of it, the pure sweetness. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what the people, no, let me use words. It's not so important to me, the people, the colors, the events. It's just the feeling of the sweetness. That's what gets me up every morning, is that the excitement that today could be mundane, could be mediocre, but it could also be really sweet.
And you you consciously ask yourself, or that question, or make that statement to yourself?
I prime myself every morning to, and not just every morning throughout the day, to, this is where we're focusing today.
So it's a morning mantra, is it? Or
it's a morning check-in, and any moment that I have of thinking, I come back to that in terms of, okay, you're focused on this, why? Is it aligning you with the sweetness of life, or is it separating you from the sweetness of life? And that's sort of my little redial, my check-in to be like, come on back, come back to the middle. Because boy, can I go on a tangent.
Oh, yeah. My challenge, Hayley, is that this year is my 50th year of doing training, presentation, writing on lesbian, gay, bisexual,
What an
transgender issues.
experience.
Yeah, it is, and I'm eager to have you read my memoir when it comes out, because it's good. But when it's kind of done, I mean, I still have a column to write, and I can still, do these podcasts with you, but I sort of look around and think, well, wait, there's got to be a problem that I can help with. There's got to be a situation that I can step in and be of usefulness to. And I know that feeling is the exact same feeling that a lot of people who retire from a helping profession have. Be they an attorney, a doctor, a nurse, a psychiatrist, whatever. They've spent their life helping people and solving problems, and then suddenly I'm retired. Oh, well, I don't really want to play golf. I've already.
There's a million things you can do. You could be an amazing dog trainer.
Yeah.
You could be an amazing landscape designer.
Yeah. Well,
you could be write an amazing recipe book.
Well, those are 3 possibilities.
Wow, although, it's like less than a minute.
It's
I could keep going.
I know you could, but it's something that the individual has to come up with herself or himself, because it's the soul whispering to you, and instead of panicking because your identity is dissipating, right? Who? Brian McNaught? I don't know. Who is he? Accepting that is reality, then listening to the spirit tell you what's next. Because if you as a child offered God or the universe yourself as a mediator, helper, a conduit, a glass through which light would shine, the light doesn't quit shining when you quit getting invited to speak. Yeah, it doesn't quit shining.
And I think that's, retirement's right in there with all of these topics that are taboo to talk about, because retirement's considered so final and like the countdown to death.
Yeah, I don't like the word at all.
I don't like the word at all. And for my clients that are retiring or retired, I ask them to use a different word, just because it has such a negative connotation.
Yeah.
I think the soul is always whispering to us. If we are stuck on the idea of retirement and this is the only thing I can do, we can't hear the whispers of the soul.
Right.
So we have to change the question. So if that's no longer what I'm supposed to be doing, what else can I be doing? Show me where I can be of service, and making it more open-ended.
And it may not be related at all to what I did before.
It may not be related at all, but it will be related to your soul.
Yes, to the growth.
And it will bring you joy.
I asked Ray, I said, I'm thinking about, all right, what's next? Why keep going? And he said, for personal growth, that each day offers you the opportunity to grow more into the manifestation of the divine that you seek to be.
And it's beautiful. Like that, if there's one thing we've learned along this path, is that being fully present to the truth of who you are is the sweetest, most beautiful thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, part of that really difficult journey is learning to keep it open-ended. Brian
Hayley, are
isn't
you?
just beautiful when he's talking about gay rights.
Yeah.
Brian is just as beautiful when he's cooking.
Hayley, do you ask yourself the question, is Hayley beautiful? Is Hayley?
Whew, that's a tough one. I don't ask myself, is Hayley beautiful? I tell myself every day that I love myself and I give myself a hug. I still find the idea of beautiful difficult to take in.
Why?
I ask myself that question so often. Why am I finding it difficult to take in that kind of compliment? I think I struggle because it's still a work in progress, but I never wanted to be seen as beautiful and empty. I always wanted to be seen as an intellect,
As what? Here?
as an intellect, an intellectual
Uh-huh.
person.
Mm-hmm.
And, the story with intellectual people is that they're not really beautiful. They have a good mind. Thank goodness they have a good mind.
Mm-hmm.
And also people that are beautiful, well, at least they're good looking.
And when I asked you the question about are you beautiful, I really, you are in my mind a beautiful woman. I was really asking about beautiful soul. Do you say to yourself, Hayley, you are a beautiful soul. You're a beautiful manifestation of the divine.
I feel like I'm still trying to align with that beauty. So I can, when I have that fizzy sense of full alignment where you're just like so overwhelmed by the sweetness of life, that's when I kind of say thank you. And I can say thank you to me, and I can say thank you to everything that's happened to allow this alignment with my soul. I feel like I'm still hoping to align with the beauty of my soul. Like every day is an opportunity to align with the beauty of my soul. So even, answering your question there, it's still difficult for me to say that I am there. And I have, people telling me often like you're such a beautiful soul, or you're such an angel, or you're such a light in my life. And I'm always like, yeah.
Yeah,
Not
me too.
yet.
Me too. Yeah.
It's
I'm
very
grateful. Yeah.
it's very difficult for me to hear it. And I think it's a work in progress. But it's difficult if I'm being honest with you.
Okay, so let's have another honest answer. You use the word dude in your emails.
My
I
sweet
have a
dude.
new dude in my life. Is the spiritual health of the people out there an important criteria for you in selecting who you're going to have as your dude?
I think it depends on how you're defining spiritual health. For me, it always comes down, spiritual health is loving kindness. For me, full stop. And I
Yeah.
think we kind of agree. I think that's how we're decently good friends, such good friends, is because we agree on that. As long as you show loving kindness to me and other people, I'm cool with you. You
Yeah.
don't need to be spiritual. You don't need to be religious. You don't need to be political. You don't even need to care about that I'm in that stuff. It's more important that you are practicing loving kindness.
Because I need to be in the presence.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know that. It's the most important thing to me, loving kindness.
No matter how handsome or wealthy or powerful, if the person doesn't constantly express loving kindness, none of the other things matter.
No, and it's, I find that there's words every now and then that he uses where I'm just like, holy shit, we've never had a spiritual discussion, but the words that he's using are what I would consider spiritual. But for him, they're just part of his journey of understanding himself.
Questions that he asks himself or you?
Or statements. We talk about sort of how we both came together and what we want now. And we both agree love and kindness we both say that the most important things are kindness, honesty, and saying thank you. Thank you is our love language. And sort of we've spoken about how we got to that being the most important thing in our lives. And for me, I can easily wrap that up in saying it was my spiritual journey, the hero's journey, that kind of stuff. For him, it's just, this is what life dealt me. So I decided it this way.
Yeah, yeah. The words people use are less important than what we feel from them, what vibration we have for them. Does he know you're a two suitcase person?
Yeah.
Does he?
He's which I found very interesting. It's rather easy to be vulnerable with him. So he knows a lot about my life and a lot of how I got to where I am today. I think where it's still not fully fleshed out is how I work.
How you work with clients?
Yeah. I think he knows that I do sort of like business consulting and sort of like a therapy kind of thing with clients. And we've kind of thrown in there that I can read the energy or I can feel it, but we've never really gone into what does that really mean.
Yes. What does it mean and what are the consequences of it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he
We're
could become
both like it's very interesting because this is my first, and we've only got a few minutes left, but this is my first relationship with a person that is even keeled, and after I've gone through such a period of change where I'm very openly energetic and spiritual. So how I interact with him and what I notice now is very different from what I used to notice. So
about
I
him.
very clearly see telepathic stuff happening between us. And he clicks onto those and he's just not bothered by it. Like I'm like, that was telepathic. And he's just like, yeah, and moves on. But there's a lot of telepathic energy between us. And for me, I'm like, wow, interesting.
Interesting good or interesting?
I find it interesting good.
Uh-huh.
And I find it very like his response to it is very interesting too, because the way that I want to live is that this is just a way of a life. It doesn't have to have a headline every single moment.
Yes.
And he's living that way where he's just like, yeah, it's cool, moves on. And I'm like, it's not just cool, dude. We just had a moment of energy exchange. And he's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. It sounds like something that would be a great discussion to have over coffee that just focuses on that. Dude, when you hear me say, because I don't know his name, dude, when you hear me say, this energy exchange, what do you hear? What do you think I'm saying? What is it that and what feelings come up for you when you hear it?
I think it's coming because he finds it fascinating and loves it when I talk to plants. So I think that conversation is coming.
Yeah, I talk to the whole garden. I do.
And I talk to my house. When I come in, I say hello to my house. When I leave my house, I say goodbye. When I go to his, I say hello to his house.
Yes.
He thinks he's fascinated and loves it. And I'm just like, this is good. This is good.
It creates this incredible aura of just serenity. If you keep taking the best care you can of the things that you've taken responsibility for, and you express the greatest gratitude that's available to you for them being exactly what they are.
I think and just as I was saying, that is our love language. Every single day we say, thank you for being in my life today. Thank you for what you did for me today. Thank you for like just trying to find one thing that stands out. He puts hot water in my bottle for the gym every morning. And it's just like, thank you for coming to get my water bottle and putting hot water in it so I have hot water when I go to the gym.
I know we only have 1 minute, but going back to the original question, answering myself after, in this 50-year change of life sort of thing, that the reason for continuing on is the opportunities it provides me to express loving kindness. And in that process, continuing to better understand the spirit within me.
Yeah. And really to express it.
Yeah.
It's a joy. That is the motivation.
Well, you're my motivation for for Thursday conversation.
Oh, thank you.
It's so much fun.
So much fun, and I love how we can fill up an hour and still have way more to go.
Oh, we tons. Yeah. All right. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful 2 weeks. I love
Thank
you.
you. I
Thank
love you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.